How are you watching this video right now? Probably either over cable Wi-Fi or your cell phone's 4G connection to a cell tower. While in most of the first world we are fortunate enough to have easy access to wired internet and 4G, these technologies are extremely expensive to roll out to rural areas and poorer third world countries. 3.5 billion people still don't have access to the internet. With all the value the internet provides, this seems like a tragedy. How are we going to get these people online? In the end of the day, giving internet access to 3.5 billion people in the timescale of years rather than decades is a matter of scale. You simply can't have a cable company install a cable connection and a Wi-Fi router to 1 billion homes. Wired internet, while it's fast, simply does not scale quickly enough to get the rest of the world online. Thankfully, there are many other ways to deliver internet access. One radio transmitter, like a 4G cell tower, can scale and serve thousands of people internet access simultaneously. However, cell phone towers have limited range and are impacted by terrain. In the third world and in rural parts of the first world, it's still not economically feasible to deploy enough cell towers to give coverage to everyone. Cell towers work by transmitting radio waves from as high as we can possibly build the tower. The higher the transmitter, the farther the range they can provide access to. So what if we put a radio transmitter even higher? That's exactly what Google and Facebook are currently doing. Recently, Google's Project Loon launched a proof-of-concept weather balloon that floated to the edge of space and beamed internet down to remote regions. Facebook is attempting something similar, using solar-powered planes with internet transmitters that can remain aloft for up to 3 months. While these approaches are incredibly innovative, they still run into issues with local weather conditions and high-altitude winds. What if we just left the atmosphere altogether? And this brings us to SpaceX. SpaceX, the rocket company founded by Elon Musk, plans to launch satellites to space to provide global internet access for everyone. Called Project Starlink, while the details are sparse, there's still enough for us to put some pieces together. According to their filings with the FCC, their goal is to provide global internet coverage by launching a fleet of over 4,000 satellites. That's triple the amount of operational satellites in orbit today. This is an insane goal. SpaceX plans on deploying the Starlink array in 2 phases. The first would bring coverage to most of the US in 2020, and the second would bring coverage to the entire Earth somewhere around 2023. Their connection would be fast, with a latency low enough to play online games with high throughput similar to a fiber optic connection. So how are they going to be able to do this? We currently have satellite internet, and it's awful. It's slow, limits the amount of data you can use, and is very expensive. SpaceX's secret lies in their recent launches of previously flown, flight-tested rockets. Rocket reusability brings a fundamental shift to the economics of spaceflight. Your average rocket currently costs around $100 million to build and launch. And prior to SpaceX, every single $100 million rocket fell back to Earth and crashed into the ocean, where they remain to this day. In fact, recently Jeff Bezos sponsored an expedition that found the original Apollo rocket engines that brought us to the moon on the ocean floor. Compare this to an airline. If every time a flight was made the airplane was thrown away afterwards, only the super wealthy would be able to fly. By making rockets reusable just like planes, it drastically reduces the price of launches. From $100 million for your average launch currently to around $5 million for the launch of a reusable rocket. That's a 20 times cost reduction. Cheap launches mean that instead of launching a couple of expensive satellites, you can afford to launch many cheaper ones. And you'll have to launch a lot. SpaceX's current plan is to launch 4,425 satellites over the next 5 years. With around 2,200 satellites orbiting Earth currently, this means in 5 years they're going to triple the amount of satellites in orbit. This is a huge opportunity, and they're not alone in pursuing it. A similar satellite constellation is being pursued by OneWeb, a startup funded by Google. OneWeb is a serious competitor, with plans to begin launches in 2019 on Blue Origin's New Glenn rocket. Blue Origin, founded by Jeff Bezos, also aims to drastically reduce rocket prices through reuse, although the New Glenn rocket is yet to be flown to orbit. The race to deploy a global internet is on. SpaceX has already launched 2 test satellites, and OneWeb is launching their first 10 satellites by the end of this year. Within the decade, we are going to see the other half of the world come online, as commercial space launches more satellites than we can possibly imagine. It's truly an awesome time to be alive. If you found this interesting, please hit the like button and subscribe for more videos like this.